Ah, don't you just love them? That's Half Man Half Biscuit and the Bastard Son of Dean Friedman. And while that was going on, I discovered that obviously a lot of smart alecky people are going to be writing and telling me exactly who Milan Kundera is now, because it turns out he's a Czech writer, and I apologise for not knowing that, but, you know, I'm just a disc jockey, and what do you expect? And I quite like the look of Repose, actually, having studied it very, very carefully during the last couple of minutes. Seems to be extremely abusive, I must say, and no respecter of persons, most assuredly. And it says here, I'll have to paraphrase this slightly. It says, "The June Brides. Since the last issue of this publication, we've received numerous complaints from members of the public regarding our reference to the June Brides as being a rather rude word, rock band. This was an error on the part of our printing staff. What we really meant to say was that the June Brides are a really rather rude word, pub rock band. We apologise for the offence that this may have caused." Well, there you are. So the address for Repose, which is to say is 15p unless you're a student, in which case it becomes 50p, and you better send them a stamped addressed envelope as well, because otherwise they won't get in touch with you, I suspect. You want to write to them at 7 Healds Green, that's H-E-A-L-D-S Green, 7 Healds Green, like heads with an L in the middle of it, if you like. 7 Healds Green, Chadderton. I make these things much harder with stuff like that, don't I? 7 Healds Green, Chadderton, Oldham, O11 2SP. I think that looks about right. So write to them. I'm sure they'll be delighted to hear from you. This is Bourbonese Quark. Seems to be turning into a night for rather strange records, this. That's Bourbonese Quark from their LP Prepare for Power. It's also one of those nights when I can't speak properly, which comes from the Recluse organisation, and that's called Return to Order, and not Return to Ordon, as our Brian has typed in here for some peculiar reason. Walter's handwriting again, I suspect. And last week I played you a track by the Honolulu Mountain Daffodils from an LP, Gyrations Volume 2 Hybrid, featuring the Wayward Souls, John Wayne, Multicoloured Shades, the Honolulu Mountain Daffodils pretty clearly, and the Volcanoes. And tonight it's the turn of the Volcanoes to be featured in our little get-together. This is called Into the Psyche. I've got an awful feeling that in the course of that I heard the words scattered their words onto the tarmac of my brain. I shall have to check it and see if that was the case. Those are the Volcanoes, and that's from Gyrations Volume 2 from Hybrid Records, Into the Psyche. This is Charlie Chaplin.
Now did you hear like to tell you a story about so don't delay what one dance can do. Right here, right away. What one dance can do. Listen now. Come out of the way. Come out of the way. Nobody done no fun really. Me say come out of the way. With your bag of money, come out of the way. Do it. No stand up in the way and I stop progress. I push up your mouth and your chest. Tell me about that you are the best. Mind you crush up the young girl just out of the way. Me say come out of the way. Man, come out of the way. You know why? Me see her mouth could have been like the whole of mobile. Look in her mouth and the teeth them there. I put a tap in a lover same way. Out of the way. Hey. Me say come out of the way. Come out of the way. Me say come out of the way. Do it. If life was a thing that money could have buy, the rich would have a life and the poor would have died. Some would have laugh and some would have cry. Some bang down and some are walking a side. Out of the way. Me say come out of the way. Me say come out of the way. Come out of the way with your big bag of cash. Don't try drive her with no watch. No spiky boot, no pretty back. Out of the way. Me say come out of the way. Nobody try to come carry a house. To come drive her with your big pretty house. Coffee my girlfriend, she is not a mouse. Out of the way. Me say me come out of the way. Young boy, come out of the way. Do it. Anywhere me go, she have to follow me. Anywhere me go, she have to take back on me. Out of the way. Me say come out of the way. Come on. Nobody try to come stop progress. Shoot up your mouth and pop up your chest. Out of the way. And you crush up the young girl chest. Don't you know that we are the best? Anywhere we go, we come to the contest. Me say we come out of the way. Hey, come out of the way. Yeah man. Anywhere we go, the boy a man. In him glass me and her apart. Talk about say that me a run lad. When him take a shot in hear me hard the bass. Out of the way. Come out. Come out of the way. Me say me love her same way. No matter if her 32 deep decay. And her mouth it big like my beer. The hair on her head them could I even green. I put a chaplain love her same way. Yeah man, come out of the way. Hey, come out of the way. Do it. Out of the way. Each man get paid according to his work. You could be an office manager or even a banker. Out of the way. Come out of the way. Me say me out of the way. Do it. Out of the way. You know, if life was a thing that money could have buy, it should have and the poor would have died. Some would walk in a year pan style, while some of them go on like them a fly. Out of the way. Me say me come out of the way. Hey, out of the way. Yes, straight. Out of the way. Do it. You come and I talk about your big mouth, yeah. But she have you as the biggest joker. The people in the area have you as a local. Out of the way. Hey, come out of the way. Me say come out of the way. Yeah.
That's Charlie Chaplin, and that's called Move Out of the Way. And now I'm going to read you a part of a communique from Fire Records with reference to their band Blue Aeroplanes. This fascination-saturated Bristol conglomerate mixed the fierce, edgy pop of R.E.M. with the jagged poetry of the Velvet Underground. They have their latest 12-inch stab at rhythm and romance entitled Love and Confidant, released by Fire Records on Friday the 7th of March. The inspirations, influences and insinuations tumble down. Tom Verlaine, Andre Breton, Screaming Jay Hawkins, Early Fall, Lovin' Spoonful, W.G. Auden, James Brown, Jackson Pollock, The Velvets, Africa Bambaataa, J.G. Ballard, The Fairports. And I think despite all of this, we'll play the record.
Falling in. I don't understand it in disrepair. It's turned your skin. Hey, come on over, I'd really like to see you. Why don't you come over, let's move a drink after. Hey, come on over, I'd really like to see you. If I can't talk to her, I'd like to talk about her. could drink a skin of this from any particular position. It means the animation of any tune. Break the neck of the bottle for the message. The usual drinking deadline. And he's saying too much for comfort. I wish you'd stick to communicating by touch. I'd really like to see you. Why don't you come over, let's go for a drink after. Hey, come on over, I'd really like to see you. If I can't talk to her, I'd like to talk about her. It's a question of anesthetic. She said you better damn try. You said I cried for 14 days. 14 nights I cried, and she said nothing. And neither did her friend. This is how important things end. Let's go and drink after. Hey, come on over, I'd really like to see you. I can't talk to her, so I'd like to talk about her. Hey, come on over.
Speaking of the Fall, which in a way we were, we have an archive session from them in tomorrow night's programme, along with a session from the Jasmine Minx. Those were the Blue Aeroplanes, though, their new single on Fire Records, Love and Confidante, the title of it, and from the Stars of Heaven, So You Know.
Down the
Stars of Heaven, and that's called So You Know. While that was going on, I discovered a list of forthcoming Half Man Half Biscuit gigs, which I should have read out earlier on. I'll pray-see it, really, and give you full details tomorrow night. Thursday, though, they play at the Cat's Whiskers in Burnley. On Friday, the 7th of March, System in Liverpool. And on the 8th of March, York University. Then on the 6th of April, one for your diaries, at the Ritz in Birkenhead, the Tranmere Rovers Football Club benefit. This is from Bloodsport. It's Agent. Very bitter, this.
Agent 454, 4545, unobtainable, out to luncher. Sending your demo tapes of youthful enthusiasm and inspiration. I'll stifle it. I was a musician once. Listen to a minute. Listen to a minute. Sharp in the art of cynicism. Drinks hard, talks hard, snorts hard. Your act wouldn't even pay for my silver nose piece. Listen to a minute. Listen to a minute. There's 3,000 other clones just like you out there, and you need me. But I'm unobtainable. I'm out to luncher. Listen to a minute. Listen to a minute. There will be no more music. From now on, it will be known as the product. It will be marketed through A image, B height, and C saturation. It will be aimed at breaking new sexual barriers for the 7 to 9-year-olds. If you're 11 years old, you're finished. Listen to a minute. Listen to a minute. Listen to a minute. Listen to a minute. Saturate the supermarket circuit with 50 Conan the Barbarian bands. Man, macho, mighty, Mick, boat legend, hero, but give it a beat. Princess Di at the seashell. Conan the Barbarian to the power of 50. BBC, ITV. Minder, the professionals, the young ones. Rich in polyunsaturates. Flora Storm and Dennis Roussos. Perry Como, Bing Crosby, Julian Lennon, Harper Scargill, Duran Duran, Bosh, lots of poppies.
Listen to a Minute Binnit is rather good, I think. Actually, that's Bloodsport, and that's a single on Quiet Records. I think that's probably supposed to be the B-side, but the better side for my money, and that's called Agent. Well, I say for my money, I've got a free copy of it. That's the kind of elitist life that I lead. This is Jackie Mittoo to end tonight's programme. A rather scratchy record, it must be said, and I'm not too sure that it is Jackie Mittoo. It's one of those records that I bought with all of the information scratched off. This is called Crawfish, maybe. Possibly Crawfish by Jackie Mittu, ending tonight's programme. Tomorrow night, The Fall, and it's an archive session, and a Jasmine Minkson session. Tonight has been Half Man Half Biscuit and Stars of Heaven. Coming up shortly, the Midnight News Summary. Thanks very much for listening. Good night.
Radio 2.
It's midnight. Here's the news read by David Geary. In Northern Ireland, the Loyalist Day of Action is marked by violence and intimidation. A Greek tanker has blown up off France. 2 crew members are killed, and it looks as if the teachers' strikes will be called off next week. The Loyalist Day of Action in Northern Ireland ended officially a few moments ago. The 24-hour strike was called to protest against the Anglo-Irish Agreement. It's been marked by reports of widespread intimidation and violence. Shots were fired at police in Belfast, and about 40 people are said to have been arrested throughout the province. A spokesman for the Chamber of Trade said it had been a disastrous day for industry. From Belfast, here's Bill Frost.
I have to confess I came away from Nottingham a bit of a Swans fan, if such a condition is a possibility, and that's called half-life. I know a half-life is some kind of scientific concept. Don't bother to write to me and explain it, because I won't understand. I shall just get one of my sick headaches and have to go to bed. Somebody has tried to explain it to me in the past, in fact. It's one of those things which I occasionally drop into my conversation without having the slightest idea of what it means. Well, I think we all do that quite a bit. My brother Frank phoned me up today too, having read my review of the Swans in the paper, and so absolute Shoes Corner stuff. And I thought it was rather restrained, actually. You should have read the stuff that I rejected. Wow. This next was a very specific request. Where's my bit of paper? Oh, that's astounding. What have I done with it? Now, this, as I've mentioned to you on previous occasions, when I do these sort of, not request programs exactly, but when I try and play people's requests, I type them all up on a piece of paper, which I then lose, and I've now found again. Alistair wanted me to play this for Ewan, Callum, Derek, Graham, Eleanor, Karen. It looked like Kareen, Fiona, Mark, Anne-Marie, Colin, and especially Angela. And this is something from Orange Juice, Flesh of My Flesh.
my flesh. Flesh of my flesh. Flesh of my flesh. Oh, flesh of my flesh, of my flesh, of my flesh, my flesh.
Orange juice and flesh of my flesh. And when I used to live in Texas, which I did for some 4 years, I used to drive around quite a bit in all over Texas and also in Louisiana and occasionally over into Alabama and Mississippi as well. And one of my favourite drinks, which I think was exclusively a southern drink at the time, was something called RC, or Royal Crown Cola, but always known as RC. And I was explaining this to Andy Kershaw recently, and when he went to Texas, he brought me back a can of RC, and last night, we having chilled it, having got it exactly the right temperature, we opened the can and sat round and tasted it, the three of us at Peel Acres, and very pleasant it was too. And I was when we were drinking it, I was reminded of a record made by brother Dave Gardner. It's a bit scratchy, this, it must be admitted, but it's an LP from about 20-25 years ago, which used to be played a great deal on a radio program I did in Dallas called Cat's Caravan. And brother Dave Gardner made 3 or 4 LPs, but only the first 2 are actually crucial, and I should imagine entirely unobtainable. But from brother Dave Gardner and an LP called Kick Thy Own Self, well, just a little anecdote about RCs.
This here's a real weird stroke, This man had this big old house down there in Louisiana. Actually, it wasn't that at all. It was just an old vacant place. Bless your heart. That's why it was an old vacant home. And there weren't nobody in it but C. Haines. He wanted to sell it, and since, them siding salesmen done hit him up 4 or 5 times, you know what I mean? Some of them, it's so good they can sell aluminum siding to folks with brick homes. Well, he went on yonder, and he found this old boy sitting out there, on this bale of cotton, and he said, "James Lewis?" "Yes, sir, can you stay up there in that old house one night over there, say in the swamp? Just stay just stay over there one night for me, say, so that folks will know that it ain't haunted." And he said, "Yes, I said, but you got to put something on me." Said, "You got to put something on me," said, "because I ain't going to stay over there for nothing, you know what I mean?" He said, "Well, so I ain't going to let you stay up there for nothing." He said, "Naturally, I'm going to put something on you." He said, "I'll give you $100. He said, "Man, there ain't that much money in the world." He said, "Yes, there is. I'll write you a check." He said, "Is it good?" He said, "Sure, it's good if I say it's good." He said, "All right," said, "I'll go." Said, "But look here," said, "I want me some fresh catfish, and I want myself a big cauldron of grease, and said I want me 4 cases of knee-high, and some RC. Yeah, RC. And he said, "Okay, that's it." So he goes on up there, and he gets this fire going in this old house, and he gets that grease to cooking and those fish to frying, and he's sitting there, and it's about 9:30, and the door opened up real slow and fast at the same time. Slow and fast, that's different, that's weird. In walks a little old bitty man, about 7 inches tall, just about that high. Weirdest looking little old dude you ever saw in your life. Had something look like chartreuse hair, little green eyes, long, skinny, gnarly, up-knuckly, little old crazy-looking fingers. Little old knees look like golf balls. Weird-looking little cat, man. And he come walking in there, and he said, "Is you gonna be here when John gets here?" He said, "You ain't nothing but a figment." So that's all you is a figment of my imagination. He takes an RC bottle cap and throws it and hits this little cap. Blap, he flips out the window. He sits back and said, "I ain't going to be scared. I'm going to make that money." Goes on sitting there grooving. About 11 o'clock, the door opens up a little bit slower, you know. Boom, here comes a fella in about 3 feet tall. Really strange looking. I mean, eyes flashing sparks. Kind of red looking hair, you know. With real long arms and real little short legs. And something other looked like little Lebanese tennis shoes on his feet, you know. With one toe and the rest of the other toe was encased. And then 2 places cut out where his corns hurt his feet. Weird, strange looking little dude. Then he say, hey, said, is you gonna be here when John gets here? He said, you ain't nothing other neither, and throws an RC bottle at him, hit him. Whap! He goes out the window, see. He's sitting there grooving. He said, man, so I got it whipped, I got it beat, I'm gonna make that money, I'm gonna sit eating me some more fish, I'm gonna have myself a party. And he's having himself a party, and 12 o'clock, ding dong bong 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 bong. I don't know how many strokes that is, but I mean it's supposed to be 12. And the door opens up real slow, you know. Boom, and the door slams through, and there's a great big monster about 9 feet tall. I mean, great big eyes that look like ball bearings. I mean, hair hanging from his head clear on down to his waist. Something other look like mosses on his feet. And then mean looking got chains on his legs, and he's dragging them, and he's making them big heavy steps like junk, 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 junk. And he walks right straight over to where this big cauldron is and takes his big old hand and digs it down in there, and brings up a great big handful of them fish and just eats them all in one go. Picks up this big cauldron of grease and just drinks it down. Blub, 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 blub. Takes a handful of coals and wipes his mouth. It don't even burn him. Pointed his finger over at him and said, you gonna be here when John gets here? He said, man, if you ain't John, I'm gone.
When what used to excite you does not, so like you've used up all your allowance of experiences, hotels where the mass of two well-known people. Last chance. Just step sideways from this world today. Just step sideways round this place today.
The Fall, of course, and that's Just Step Sideways, and that's for the Coatbridge branch of the Sheena Barmy Army. Marty Mackay wanted me to play it for Alan E, Vince, George, T, Image, Keone, it looked like, Pat, and others. Before that, Brother Dave Gardner, and something which I've always thought of as being called If You Ain't John, I'm Gone, which will do for the time being. It doesn't really have a title at all. And speaking of The Fall, a great number of people, and I'm grateful to, because I mentioned that somebody had written in wanting a complete Fall discography, and I've been supplied with a wealth of these, which I'm very grateful, and will pass them on to the person who wrote in the first place as soon as I can find their original letter. This is the sort of thing that happens all of the time. A breakdown in communications, and all of it, of course, stemming from me. I mean, I am the permanent breakdown. And I also got a note from Mark Patress, who has written a piece about The Fall, including this discography, which will be in the next edition, the March edition of Record Collector. And so that's, perhaps you can track it down that way if I don't ever find the letter and you're listening, dear sir or madam. This is from We've Got a Fuzz Box and We're Going to Use It, Vindaloo Recording Artistes, and this, and I took the title down over the phone this morning, so I may have got it wrong, but I think it's called XX Sex. Shop assistance, of course, on 53rd and 3rd, and that's called Safety Net. You may recall Politburo from there. They were one of the three bands that won, or were, they were one of the three winners of the 2 Minute Heroes competition held by BBC Radio Merseyside, as a result of which they made a contribution to, I think it was it a flexi disc? Anyway, to a record that was issued. And also they contributed a track to the Jobs for the Boys compilation. That was called Innocence. And now they've got a 12-inch of their own. This is called Euphoria.
My heartbeat goes faster as the blood rushes.
A 12-inch on Skysaw Records, that's Politburo, and that's called Euphoria. And from the Guanabats, this one's for Andreas Knight of Lane End in Buckinghamshire, the new single, which is called See Through. Guanabats, and that's called See Through, the new 12-inch on ID Records. And I've had a terse letter from the Coatbridge branch of the Sheena Eastern Barmy Army saying that last time I mentioned them, I passed off some of them as just "and others." And so this is for Karen, Vicky and Richard, with my apologies. Half Man Half Biscuit, and this time it's Reasons to be Miserable, Part 10.
industrial safety helmet you hear, can't hear. And you stand there witnessing the whole Neanderthal situation, wanting to twist your own brain out as they sit satisfied on their newly built wall, laughing their hearts off. Turkish Delight advert who's full of instant monosodium glutamate. And they always have a portrait of a sad clown on the wall. And they go to charity shops and tend to become slightly orgasmic at the thought of vampire lust.
To be perfectly serious for a moment, I think that my brother Alan puts peaches on cornflakes and yoghurt as well. Half Man Half Biscuit, and that's Reasons to be Miserable, Part 10. This is Clinton Harmon from one of those Move Into Soul compilations. There is a Volume 4, which I have in the office upstairs, and there's a Volume 5 in the works. Can't help the way I feel about you.
Nobody from nowhere gotta tell me that I'm a fool for you. And I know that it's wrong, but I'm in love with you, baby. That's why I don't mind hanging on, 'cause I didn't ask myself to fall in love with you, baby. It's a supernatural thing, baby. I know that it's a shame, but I can't help it. I can't help the way I feel about you, baby. Come and do something for me, girl. It's so hard on me, baby, being in love with someone that don't love you. And it's so much harder, baby, when you got no one to return to. No one to turn. But I know that someday I'll get over you. I don't deserve the changes, baby, no. The changes that you put me through. But I can't help it. I can't help the way I feel about you, baby. Whoa, woo-hoo, baby. Baby, baby, yeah. Come and do something for me, girl. I can't help it, baby. No, 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 no. I'm just hooked on you, baby. Yeah, 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 yeah. On you, baby, yeah, 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 yeah. I'm just hooked on you, baby. Ooh, baby, yeah, yeah. I can't help it, baby, no, 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 no. I'm just...
Clinton Harmon, that's on Move Records, as I hinted previously. Can't help the way I feel about you. And here's a letter from a very curious person indeed. It's from Andy Davis, who writes to me from New Milton in Hampshire. And it says, Dear John, hearing you express some curiosity about skinks the other day prompted me to delve deep into an enormous volume of the Longman Illustrated Animal Encyclopedia, which I recently borrowed from a well-equipped lending library to see exactly what these creatures are. I originally borrowed the book to study a rather wonderful drawing of my animal of the month for December, January and February, the giraffe. But even though I am completely enamoured of this bizarre creature, I must sympathise with the question asked in the back of my girlfriend's car only last week in response to my mother's statement that Andrew has a thing about giraffes. Quite simply, why are there giraffes? Indeed, why are there skinks? I cannot say why there are skinks, but I can say what they are. Apparently they are one of the largest species of lizards on this planet, with hundreds of different types, and I thought I'd share this joyous discovery with you so that when questioned you can list at least 14 different species of skinks, including describing their habitat, coloration, and of course mating habits. And then he goes on to dwell about the mating habits in rather disgusting detail. He also sends me some useful illustrations of different kinds of skinks, which I have here. Oh no, this isn't them at all. Skinks 1, here they go, legless skink, and Sunderville's skink, the Great Plains skink, sandfish, which is apparently a skink as well. They're not very attractive looking creatures, it must be said, but I suppose to other skinks, as people always say, they're probably well nigh irresistible. The reason I mention all of this, of course, is because Riot of Colour issued a flexi-disc, and one of the titles on that was Skink, so perhaps we ought to just hear that again, and I'll stop talking about them.
Been gone too long to realize you've outstayed
The unmistakable vocal stylings of Mrs. Miller and Shadow of Your Smile. Preceding that, Riot of Colour and their flexi disc, Skink, and there's another song on there as well called Newtown, which perhaps one of these days I'll get round to playing to you. And you can get a copy of that for only 50p from an address which I'll give you in just a moment. And I've already had a couple of letters from people saying that they've sent off for it and are well pleased, and that they've had charming letters from Riot of Colour themselves. They are amiable people by all accounts. Stars of Heaven and Sacred Heart Hotel. Oh, but someone somewhere is planning to flood the market with Stars of Heaven records. That's Sacred Heart Hotel. And the address for the Riot of Colour flexi disc, Skink and Newtown, goes thus: 37 Aberdare Gardens, Swiss Cottage, London, NW6 3AJ. Just 50p, and I suppose a handy stamped address envelope will not come amiss. 37 Aberdare Gardens, Swiss Cottage, London, NW6 3AJ, 50p. And from Swiss Cottage we move north to Derby and Junior C Reaction.
I've been trying a long time, still I can't make it. Everything I do just seems to go wrong. Seems that I've done something wrong by trying to keep me down, Lord. Oh, God bless, no man curse.
Thank God I'm not the worst. Bet I must come one day. I bet I must come. I bet I must come one day. I bet I must come. This will come one day. This will come one day. This will come one day. This will come one I've been trying a long time, see if I can make it. Everything I do just seems to go wrong. Seems that I've done something wrong. Why they're trying to keep me down? Food jobless, no man touch me. Thank God I'm not the worst. Bet I must come one day. I bet I must come. I bet I must come one day. I bet I must come. I love a pretty bad girl, I know. I never knew a girl could love a man so. And in the morning as the sun comes up, she brings me coffee in my favorite cup and says, bet I must come one day. Bet I must come one day. Bet I must come. I bet I must come one day. Bet I must come. Bet I must come one day. Bet I must come. Going down, down, I'm working in a coal mine. You might be dead now, working in a coal mine. Going down, down, working in a coal mine. You might be dead now, working. Going down, down, I'm working. Going down, down, I'm working. Going down, down, I'm working. You might be dead now, working in a coal mine. Going down, down, down. Working in a coal mine, going down, down, down. Working in a coal mine, going down, down, down. Working in a coal mine, you might be dead now. I bet I must come. bet I must come one day. I bet I must come. If I must come one day. If I must come. If I must come one day. If I must come.
Junior C Reaction from Derby and a new single from them which is called Better Must Come. And here are a couple of inquiries, things you can help me with really, because frankly, as you must have realised if you're a regular listener, if there's such a condition as sensory overload, I've been suffering from it for about 15 years now, so I very easily forget titles and even names of artists and things. People come and ask me about records which I know quite well, and to my considerable embarrassment I can't tell them what they are. But I played a record, and I remember looking at it the other day and thinking, shall I play it again? But I still can't remember who it's by, which was something about a man with a yard full of rusty cars. Now, there must be somebody who can write in and tell me what that was, because a country solicitor has written, who now writes to me fairly regularly, rather strange letters, which I'm always very pleased to receive, of course. But if you know who that record is by, then write and tell me, and I'll pass the information on to a country solicitor, who doesn't give me his address, so you'll have to be listening to the programme to do it. And then I always say that people wait 3 or 4 years before they write in with inquiries anyway, and to demonstrate this, here's one from Darren, who writes to me, Darren Adams, in fact, who writes to me from Blackpool, saying, about 3 years ago I was listening to your programme and you played a great record called Fat Cows Go Down to Easter Beach. And I can't remember who it was by, only that the group came from Australia. And then on page 2 he says, and around the same time you played a record called Hotel by a Scottish group. I don't suppose you could help me with this one either, could you? I don't know, I feel it's some kind of test, some kind of challenge. And of course, by the time the information comes back from listeners who've got better memories than I have, I've lost the original letters, so I can't send the information off anyway. But I'm full of good intentions. And this next track comes from an EP, I suppose, called All Shapes and Sizes. And I must admit, I haven't read all of the information about it, but it seems to be based in Croydon. And it features Cardiacs, Chris White, Alpha Road, Lee Le Modeleur, looks like, Paint the Clown Red, and then some people called Beyond, well, Epics, I suppose. It's EPXX, I mean, pronounce it as you will. This is their Power Dance. Well, that comes, as I say, from an EP, All Shapes and Sizes, on Primitive Records, plays at 33 1/3, which I got right the first time. and that's Beyond Epics. Let's settle for that. And Power Dance. And a very specific request here from Helen Clark, who writes me from Altrincham and says, would I please play a record for Larry Cook, who's building a Formula 3 car somewhere far removed from Helen, is the way I understand it. These are the Doors. Those are the Doors and Land Ho. It's not a fashionable view to hold on, no, but I think a lot of their stuff actually hasn't stood the test of time awfully well. Stands by for abusive male, but that one sounds fine. And in case you were sitting down to write out and tell me who wrote that thing about the yard full of rusty cars, somebody has phoned the BBC and said that it's Bobby Bear. So if you're planning to phone, don't do that either. I always forget that people might phone in on these occasions when I'm looking for advice, because I must admit they don't like it much if you phone, is my understanding of it. Now, where are we? This is a magazine that I opened while that was going on, called Repose, which looks rather amusing because it says something like, could you mention our cheapo scruffy fanzine on your programme, addressed on the inside of the front page. And it says on the front, Repose 15p, Students 50p. And in the current issue, stuff about A Witness, who you heard earlier in the programme, elegant fashions, books, records and other stuff, and Milan Kundera. I hope that's not rude. Is that the name of a band? I should have checked on that first. Anyway, in the next one, they tell me they're going to have pieces on AC Temple and hopefully Twang, who you will have heard in session on this programme, and also something called Andrex Doesn't Flush. Now, where are we? Half Man, Half Biscuit. I'll give you an address for Repose in just a moment. Half Man, Half Biscuit, though, our heroes, of course, the bastard son of Dean Friedman.
I went to tell my friends, but they said it was a lie, and she wasn't